Communist organizing. Today we'll be going over the 1926 piece from the Communist Party of Italy's Third Congress at Lyon, Theses Presented by the Left, which I've subtitled Anti-Opportunist Frameworks Unite Mass Initiative and Revolutionary Strategy. This text discusses the character of tactics, the party's relations to other organizations, and how leadership arises, and the basis for rejection of laborism of any sort of domination of the party by a fraction. It explains that the political class party, which aims to use revolutionary insurrection to build a new government and state organism by education of the revolutionary class to gain the will to take power and acting as general staff of the revolution. This need for taking the role of general staff comes from the necessarily myopic view of the workers about their own struggle, and a need for all the individual struggles to be united together. Hence, the party must have political adherents of its members, who are willing to focus on the whole and on the final seizure of power, while also supporting the partial, immediate interests of the working class. This party is not determined by the number of members, or on its form, but rather if it is revolutionary in these terms. The party, in addition, is not a laborist one. There can be communists that are class traitors of the bourgeoisie, and proletarians that are class traitors towards the bourgeoisie. Ultimately, we cannot rely on organizational format as the decider on whether a party is revolutionary, as any format can have a slide into opportunism regardless of structure should the tactics pursued fail to maintain principles. Tactics, in this sense, is defined as the way the party operates, 1. In response to specific situations, 2. In relation to other groups, 3. In relation to other organizations, and 4. In relation to other institutions. Therefore, while these tactics are immediate, they are modified based on relation to overall principles, previous experience, and thereby establish continuous tactical norms in terms of classes of practical problems. Tactics involve compromise to take action, but they should be unwilling to give up everything. Through continual explication to the fundamental principles of the party, the demand that tactics retain organizational unity, efficiency, and defense against opportunism, and the requirement that any engagement with the immediate struggles of the proletariat be accompanied with agitation for the uniting of all struggles while retaining party autonomy. Any amount of compromise should result in the improvement of subjective conditions, and thereby the proletariat's position to carry out the revolution when objective conditions are ripe and achieve victory. While there is an element of immediacy to all tactics, as particular situations cannot be anticipated, general situations can be. It is the duty of the party, acting as general staff of the revolution, to study the national and international objective conditions and formulate tactical plans for broad outlines according to hypothetical scenarios, which emerge from reasonable interpretation of circumstances. A good tactic is dynamic enough so that the center can have it carried out without necessarily having to consult the party membership as a whole or the masses, but still not have unexpected or poor relations within the party or masses. These tactics must, to some degree, be universalized, but under unexpected conditions, they should not result in opportunism or eclecticism. Instead, they should stay in line with the general principles and therefore the party's tasks. They need to be constructed with the aim of maintaining the dynamism of the party's ideological, propaganda, and organizational functions, while allowing for and centering active participation of individual struggles initiated by the proletariat, until the crucial moment when the party must take on an essentially military character. The tactics must avoid being abstract, stopping concrete activity, being attached to actions for action's sake, and or neglecting the link with principles and focusing on short-term success. They must be constructed dialectically, and therefore they develop as the struggle does. Tactics are not set in place, unchanging no matter the conditions. Examples of such, yet historically and nationally specific tactics include 1. The United Front, which is risky and can lead to the belief that activity of social-pacifist struggle can defeat the bourgeoisie. This is the case because it is erroneous to believe that different factions of the bourgeoisie can be organized alongside, as all that is left are reactionary fascism and liberal democratic governments. Under the conditions of fascist governance, the party must keep the proletariat from being fooled into thinking that a left-wing bourgeois government is a solution. While individual workers in the Communist Party can join the United Front and within it, A. agitate against anti-classist positions, B. criticize the social-pacifist stances, and C. recruit people from the United Front into the party. At no point can the party give up autonomy. 2. The struggle of national minorities, which can only be a tactic that has the potential to offer revolutionary possibilities, but also reactionary developments, and thereby cannot be termed a principle. The world struggle will be directed by organs of the revolutionary proletariat, which includes all kinds of local, indigenous, economical, and so on formations. Such formations must be allowed to grow dynamically and to their fullest extent, but in nations where imperialism and patriotic ideology have become counter-revolutionary, such organizations disarm the proletariat and act as necessarily social-chauvinistic and must be organized against. The party needs to be able to analyze such movements and tell the difference between them. 3. Organizational form does not decide whether something is communist or not, and organic solutions cannot be valid universally, as conditions matter. Artificial organizational structure fit into the incorrect environment will result in a paralysis of spontaneous initiatives and proletarian and classist energies. And 4. Simple discipline and democratic decision-making processes, which cannot be used all the time. These only suppress factionalism, whereas we need to actually deal with it. Hence, organic centralism should be used instead, which ensures as much consultation with the base as possible. We'll get into whether or not this is correct later because they make the explicit rejection of consultation of the rank and file as a section of organic centralism later on. There might have been changes in their understanding of what organic centralism involves, but we'll talk about this later on near the end of this series. Continuing. As much consultation with the base as possible while spontaneously eliminating any grouping that starts to differentiate itself, forcing everyone to be on board with the correct revolutionary politics. This requires open discussion of positions without recrimination. The party must be the full extent of volitional possibilities and initiative in all fields of activity, but cannot be individual. No one person can hold the fullest volition, consciousness, and theoretical knowledge. This is only held by the collective, and so great man theory and voluntarist ideology, wherein an individual or small group of dedicated fighters enforce their political aims on the people via effort of will, activity, and heroism, does not work. Any belief that a few individuals will have the capacity to take necessary action, and thereby make an elite outside the party, is necessarily fatalistic and pacifistic, as it means that the proletariat must wait for such individuals. This in turn leads to the vitality of the party disappearing and opportunism developing. In a party that rejects such notions, leaders in the party arise organically because they are instruments and operators of tasks of the party and have the capacity to comprehend and explain facts along with lead and will action. Members should be able to carry out actions without being kept from leadership positions, such as abiding by the decisions of the party organs and renouncing oppositional work too. Punishment for acting or explaining their political positions is self-destructive, as it can only ever lead to internal factions and scheming, which can't be dealt with solely by mechanical organizational formulations. Such factionalism can't be dealt with through the quote-unquote correct individuals, leaders in the quote-unquote correct positions. It must be done through the ways in which we organize. It should organize on a territorial basis and not give up organs subordinate to party discipline in the factories, seeking to form a trade union framework. Through such territorial outreach, it will have connection with the masses while keeping the main organization hidden. The party itself aims to show the necessity of class struggle, which exceeds legal terms, as these are decided by the bourgeoisie, while also showing that the proletariat, that the middle class, lack the ability to produce a general political staff to lead the revolution, take power, or allow victories of the proletariat, They simply declare that their victory will allow for easier organizing for the proletariat. It seeks to instill confidence in the proletariat about carrying out revolution, which involves propaganda in terms of correct positions and successful operations. It is a fundamentally voluntary organization, aside from the crucial moment wherein it takes on a military character, unlike an army or state apparatus. Hence, there can be no material sanctions outside of leaving the party for refusal to carry out tasks. The center, therefore, needs to be able to predict how the party as a whole will react to orders, and what will result in a greater position of the proletariat. This knowledge comes through experience, which also allows the normalization of rules of engagement and produces leaders. Leaders arise through the carrying out of these tasks, which allows them to gain the trust of the party and masses, should they have victory and clearly, continuously carry out and embody their tasks. There should be no hierarchical bureaucracy, which is a sign of bourgeois influence, as the party up top invokes unity while mobilizing initiatives on the ground. Such influences are defeatist in character and cannot be defeated in turn by discipline. It can only be expelled through the party and proletariat being oriented against it, expelling them when they take on important political stances with anti-classist consequences. When the proletariat adopts non-revolutionary stances in response to objective conditions, the party maintains its principled line, which is necessary as the proletariat is always a potentially revolutionary class, and is the only revolutionary class. Therefore, the party must maintain coherency and rigor, educating and awaiting the development of revolutionary subjective conditions. Opportunism of all kinds must be rejected in all terms, as it confuses the proletariat and keeps them from achieving revolutionary consciousness. Ultimately, proletarian politics is aimed at higher forms of relation which link the revolutionary proletariat with its communist leadership in order to achieve revolutionary insurrection. Thus, for example, all regionalist, secessionist positions within agrarianism should be rejected, and every local committee and individual comrade should be in line with the center through clear and uniform operating procedures, parameters, activities, and so on. The party, too, must have systematized and formulated organizational measures with uniform parameters, operating procedures, methods, and practices which are universally binding in the organization in order to avoid blind obedience and conflicting instructions stemming from a lack of clarity of the organizational structure of the party. Despite that, such requirements should not be maintained through enforcement via interventions by the central apparatus. Such solutions should only be done when absolutely necessary. Rather, local committees should have general autonomy except in emergencies. There should be inspectors, which ensure direct political links between regions' leadership, and the traditional rank-and-file organizations of the party who intervene when they see that the local fundamental organization is no longer viable, and help restore it. Once such proletarian groups have been fully established, worker committees can be produced which will engage in a vigorous campaign in response to changing situations in order to create a call to action with a nucleus constituted of representatives from traditional mass organizations, aside from political delegates who are rejected. These committees may have elections, but they are not organs of proletarian government. Rather, they are local and national alliances of the exploited for their joint defense. And that is my summary of the Communist Party of Italy's Third Congress at Lyon's theses presented by the left. As usual, if you'd like to see the quotations I derived this summary from, then please feel free to go into the description below and you'll find a link to this Google Doc. There's also a link to the United Marxist Pact Discord server if you'd like to join in and talk about this or anything other related to communism. We'd love to have you. Tomorrow, we will be going through the 1926 piece by the Third Communist International's sixth and large executive, Report by the Left of the Communist Party of Italy. Thank you for joining me for today's topical summary, and I hope to see you tomorrow.